Things have certainly improved. So this idea that habits is really what is going to bring us success in life is, it's just such a powerful one. And I guess another way that we like to talk about it is also virtue. Virtue's a bit of an old-fashioned word these days, but really what virtue describes is just basically somebody who has good and healthy habits. Practicing moderation, practicing forgiveness, practicing understanding. All of these different virtues are just ways of describing, that somebody has good habits.
It takes the sort of mysticism out of virtues too, doesn't it? Because if you can build good habits, well then the virtues will come. And if you don't feel like you're a particularly forgiving person, if you're somebody that flies off the handle and gets too angry and can't forgive, and you think, oh, well, I'm just not a forgiving type of person. Well, okay, maybe that's true, but, the habits are really the platform to build, to move towards that virtue and practicing virtue. And practicing virtue is really the key to virtue. You don't have to be a virtuous person. But if you practice virtue, you are a virtuous person because you're practicing it. And that's where habits are the key as well.
Yeah, something that has to be done over and over again.
And even humility, practicing humility.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a really hard one.
It is. We're working on it.
Yeah.
She says, well, may sound really a bit naive and old-fashioned in today's world as well, when people think, but is this what I really want? Isn't all the things that are worth having and that people really want not got anything to do with virtue? But again, I would really challenge that thinking, because, I don't think that we are really born wanting all the sort of consuming,
materialistic
things that we're said to want. We're not born we're not born craving alcohol. We're not born craving drugs. We're not born craving illicit sex with strangers. All of these things that are put in front of us now as, oh, this is what's really fun and this is what life is really all about. Because I really feel that has happened to a large degree. And this idea of virtue, that's really old-fashioned. Who wants virtue? Virtue's just over there, with the dusty old sort of prayer books and song books, and it's stuff that nobody thinks about anymore. But really, I want to challenge this, because I think that really what most of us want, if we were honest, is to be liked and known and accepted for who we are, in a family or at least with a couple of other people. The things that we really want in life are often a lot simpler than what we're led to believe, or all those materialistic things that are put out there in front of us. And this idea that we have to be superior to get what we want in life really can rob us of all of that, because it's actually one of the fastest ways to actually end up getting a whole lot of what we don't want. Because if we become competitive with other people, it really does alienate us, and it really does make it very difficult for people to love us. Somebody who practices virtue, it becomes somebody who is really quite easy to love, is quite easy to be around, is an easy person to live with, and an easy person to know. Yeah, because the consuming desires, and the reason that I use that word consuming is because, the problem with these things is that you just want more and more and more of it. It doesn't actually fill you up. It doesn't actually satisfy you. We both used to smoke, and we don't smoke now. And, that was one of the things that really helped me stop smoking, is because I realized that when I wanted a cigarette, having a cigarette didn't make me want a cigarette any less. Having a cigarette actually made me want 10 more cigarettes. And you kind of really quickly end up in this sort of bottomless pit. And, you taught me a great trick, which was just smoking air. By going like that and smoking air actually made me not want a cigarette anymore.
It's amazing how good that works. I've helped a few people give up doing that.
Yeah, really easy little trick, but the difference is that by smoking air, you don't actually want the cigarette anymore, but if you have the cigarette, you want. Yeah.
And you don't want to keep smoking air for the rest of the night either. It's not good for you. You look like you're a bit of a moron. So that's one way of getting out of the habit.
Yeah. So I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see where we're up to next. So, you're going to do a reading for us, aren't you?
Okay, yes, I am going to do a reading. Okay, this short reading is from If the War Goes On by Hermann Hesse. I preach self-will, not revolution. How could I want a revolution? Revolution is war. Like all other war, it is a prolongation of politics by other means. But a man who has once felt the courage to be himself, who has heard the voice of his own destiny, cares nothing for politics, whether it be monarchist or democratic, revolutionary or conservative. He is concerned with something else. His self-will, like the profound, magnificent, God-given self-will that inhabits every blade of grass, has no other aim than his own growth. Egoism, if you will, but very different from the sordid egoism of those who lust for money or power.
This, idea of false pride, which ego can lead us into, and when we're too frightened to admit that maybe we're wrong, or we're too frightened to admit that maybe we've made mistakes, it can really end up leaving people in a very, very terrible and lonely place. Lead people in their lives to create exactly for themselves the opposite of what it is that they wanted in the first place. They set out trying to prove that they're superior because they want all of these rewards that they think they're going to get from it. But when we get trapped in false pride, what will happen is we'll just alienate ourselves further and further and further, hurting ourselves, hurting the people